Brothers and sisters, it's a beautiful gospel today because it really helps get us ready now for Holy Week. Let me explain. The gospel of today is the third story from the 12th chapter of John's gospel. In other words, two other stories have unfolded in John 12, and here they are, the first one. It's a story of Mary. Remember, she brings in the great perfume. She takes the oil, and what does she do? She pours it on Jesus' feet. And then what does she use to wipe it? Her hair. It's kind of strange, isn't it, a little bit? And of course, Judas Iscariot jumps all over it and says, boy, that's a waste. We could have sold it and used the money for the poor. He was really lying. You know what? He was seeing dollar signs for himself. Because actually he could have taken it, everyone. It says that he used to take from the purse, sell it, and use the money for his own self. But remember the beauty of the story. What does Jesus say? Leave her alone. She's preparing me for my death, and what she has done will be forever remembered. And it is. It's actually in the Gospels. Okay? Second story of Palm Sunday. Jesus is about to enter Jerusalem. So what do? They procure the donkey. They put him on the donkey. They wave palms, everyone, and they hail him as their great king. Okay? It's a beautiful gospel that gets us ready because it's the gospel actually of next Sunday. And now we come face to face, everyone, with the gospel of today. And one would think, everyone, with all of these gospels, Jesus entering Jerusalem, he would be excited. He'd be fired up. But boy, our gospel today tells us something so different, doesn't it? It says this. Jesus is scared, but he also says this. What am I supposed to say? Father, save me from this hour? Second reading today, much more graphic. Sir, you read it for us today. It said this. Jesus used to lament, he used to cry and wail before his Father. One of the stations we prayed during Lent actually said it this way, of Jesus as he journeys, everyone. Jesus was this psychologically humiliated. Think about that. Psychologically humiliated. And so, everyone, when Jesus enters Jerusalem on that donkey, know, everyone, he isn't excited. He isn't all pumped up. As a matter of fact, he knows it's ugly. And he's terrified. And the analogy Jesus gives us, everyone, today is a grain of wheat. So let's talk about it a little bit today. Imagine the journey of a grain of wheat. Okay, at some point, everyone, it's harvested, cleaned, all right, goes from the light, and then all of a sudden, what do? We put it in a bag, in a sack, don't we? And we seal it up. Okay? It sits until it's sold. Then all of a sudden, in the midst of all that darkness, in a bag, all of a sudden, just like this, everyone, the bag is open and you're exposed to light. Good example for you. Okay? If I shut the lights off in your house at night, okay, we do that for a period of time, and all of a sudden, I take you into a room and I pop the lights on, what do your eyes do? They automatically, they want to close. They're not used to the light. That's what's true of that kernel of wheat. Open the bag, bang, it's exposed to light, and then what do we do with it? Here's what we do with it. We take it and we put it in complete darkness again, where it relies on soil, temperature, and moisture. And then if it decides to pop out of the ground, what does it have to face? Light, extreme moisture, extreme heat, hail, and wind. And so we ask ourselves this question, why even die? Why go through it? We're going to answer that question here in a moment. But I want to offer another just quick thought for you today. If I were Jesus, if I was one of the crowd, and Jesus was entering the Jerusalem, and you were to ask me, waving the palm, what are some of the expectations I would have had of Jesus entering Jerusalem? I wrote down some this week. Okay? Get rid of the thought Jesus was there to overthrow the Romans. That one is so obvious that I'm not even going to mention it. But here's the list I put together. What would you say, waving the palms, expectations of Jesus? Here are 8 I would have. Number 1, one who brings justice to injustice. Okay? justice to injustice. Okay, number 2, one who answers my prayers. Okay, Bob Katzenberger, everything you ask, you pray for it, God gives it to you. All right? Number 3, don't forget this one. I'm going to come back to this one. One whom I can see, who doesn't hide himself, isn't so hidden. Remember that one, because we're going to come back to that one. Number 4, one who has at least a little bit of control over things. We look at our world today, and what do we say? Is God in control or not? Number 5, one who is the Prince of Peace. We think about the IS today, and what is the one thing we want? Justice and peace. Okay. Number 6, from the eyes of John the Baptist, he was disappointed because from Jesus, he wanted thunder. Thunder. Okay. Number 7, one who could convert his adversaries, all people, just like that. I speak, you believe, just like that. And the final one I thought of, one who could take away suffering. God, I pray, I suffer, take it away. It's gone like that. You could add your own to the list. But you know something? This coming Wednesday is March 25th. Okay, we're going to count them now. It's how many months removed from Christmas? Count them. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. What do you get? It's the Annunciation. Okay, men and women, you should know that 9 months. Pretty important stuff. Okay, 9 months. We should know things are different in that story, though, because remember, the angel Gabriel comes to Mary and says, Mary, you will conceive through the power of the Holy Spirit, and you will give birth to a man whose name is what? Jesus. Who will do what? Save his people from their sins. Not once did I mention that on this list. Not once. Jesus came to save people from their sins. That was his purpose. Okay? I wanted you to remember this one on the list, so let's go back to it. One whom I can see who isn't so hidden. I got a question for you today in regards to the Gospels. The Gospel. The Greeks want to see Jesus. Philip goes to Andrew. Philip and Andrew go to Jesus and say, the Greeks want to see you. Do the Greeks ever get to see Jesus? Do they ever see him? Do they see him in the gospel of today? They never do. They never do. As a matter of fact, in the story right after this one, it starts by saying this: Jesus went and he hid himself. He didn't appear to everyone. Greeks never got to see him. Instead, what does he do? He teaches. What does he tell us? Serve me, die to yourself so that we can live. And so with that in mind, everyone, I'm going to answer the question now. Why should a grain of wheat die? Why die? 3 reasons. Here they are. Number 1, when we were on a farm, everyone, we used to grow wheat. And if you were a farmer, everyone, and you planted something every year and it never grew and bare fruit, guess what you'd do after a while? You'd say, forget it. So for us to be able to farm, what did that grain of wheat have to do? It had to die. Number 1. Number 2, the beauty of wheat isn't only the kernels that you get from it, everyone. It's also the straw you get from it. Because you know something, what it does, everyone? It's an inexpensive way in which to bed animals. So after the harvest, we used to bale it, put it in the barn. Usually it was 90, 100 degrees. But we used to use it for bedding. Number 2. Number 3, though, and most important for you and me today is this. Fill in the blank. Later on at Mass, the blank and the wine will be presented. What is the blank? What is it? Bread. If we're going to have bread, what do we have to have? We have to have wheat. Think about that. If wheat is not willing to die, we cannot celebrate Mass. The Eucharist. It has to die. That's why Jesus died, everyone. He died to give us life. I want to close with a quick word on the first reading of today, because now this is the fourth time we've heard about a covenant in the first reading. Remember the first ones? One, Noah and the rainbow. God will not destroy the earth. Promises us a rainbow. Has He been true to that, everyone? Yes. Do we see rainbows to this day? Yes. Number two, Abraham and Isaac. Take, sacrifice your son. Abraham is close, and he says, stop. Ram takes its place. Because you're faithful, Abraham, I will make the Israelite people as numerous as the stars in the sands. Was God faithful to that? Yes. Third covenant, Mount Sinai. God gave the people the 10 Commandments, said, follow them, and I will lead you into the land of Israel, and you will prosper, and you will have peace. Did God lead the people into Israel? Yes. But you know something? First reading, we were unfaithful to that one. So God broke it. And He gave us another one. And what does He say about this one? He etched it in our... God faithful to it? I'll give you some examples. Husbands, lie to your wives. And where does it hurt? Wives, commit adultery on your husband. Guess where it hurts the most? Kids, go steal something. And where does it hurt the most? Why? Now you know. God said He'd do it, and He did it. He etched the law in our hearts. Not on tablets. It's in our hearts. Was God faithful to it? Yes, He was. And you are called to be faithful to that covenant too. People, I want to leave you with a little close today. I want to leave you with an image. It's coming Tuesday, everyone. We celebrate our communal reconciliation service. You know, one thing we can all say, God's been faithful to the covenant. Have we? No. Kids, I want to ask you a question today. There's only been 2 people who walked the face of the earth who never sinned. Who were they? Mary and Jesus. The rest of us have one thing in common. What are we? We're sinners. We're sinners. Okay? I want you to think about this image, though. Think about the story of the prodigal son and the prodigal brother. The story is this. There's a father who's old, probably almost blind. And so what does he do? He holds out his arms and he waits for his sons to come to him. He waits. He calls, he prays, he wants them to come. What happens? One does, whom he gets to embrace, the other does not. In reconciliation, that is God. God knows we've been unfaithful to the covenant. We've sinned. So what does He do? He holds out His arms. He calls us and says, come to me. He leaves it up to us about whether we do or do not. And imagine this, everyone, if all of our lives, God extended His arms like this, and He never got to embrace us. Never. It's a scary image. So come celebrate God's forgiveness. He calls you. He's the one that wants to forgive you so He can embrace you in peace. It's an image I want you to think about. Okay? Think about that during the course of this week. So God's blessings to you, and let's pray for each other as we ready ourselves for Holy Week.